So, uh, my name is Melinda Price, and I'm the director of the Gaines Center for Humanities. And this is another episode of Over Yonder. I used to count, but now I've totally messed up the counting and had to edit in corrections. So I'm going to stop counting. But joining me today is Dave Blackwell, who's the provost of the University of Kentucky. So thank you so much for joining me, Provost Blackwell.
Thank you, Melinda. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah. So I have been asking people basically the same questions. And one of the questions I've been asking people is this your first pandemic? Which I've gotten a wide variety of answers about. So, is this your first
Well,
pandemic?
I'm old enough that I may have experienced something close to it,
Mm-hmm.
because when I was very young in the early '60s, I had the measles. So
Oh,
maybe this isn't my first pandemic. That was before before there was a vaccine for that.
that's right.
So
Right.
maybe that. So that's probably not my first one.
It's been interesting to think back to other public health crises and how we have managed them before. I know you probably have had to do a lot of that in thinking through how to shift the university back to our reopening this fall. And so one of the questions I'd like to ask you is if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about how we know the role that scientists and doctors are playing, but can you think about even for those people, the ways in which the humanities might be influencing some of the decisions you're making and how you're processing information?
Well, I am a fairly uh, large consumer of history.
Mhm.
I like to read history, and in particular, enjoy military history and enjoy reading about military leaders and how they responded to various crises in their careers, how they planned for big battles or major campaigns in a war. And I take away a lot from those readings about leadership
Yeah.
and having to have some vision to be able to think ahead to what all the contingencies might be.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has influenced my thinking and how I've advised the president and worked with the deans and others in leadership on how we've responded to the pandemic. It's very much like a battle. We're trying to get to the objective of having everybody safe and on campus the week of Thanksgiving and send everybody home healthy.
That's right. One of my, this is not accurate history at all, but for a while, particularly when I was in graduate school, the movie I would watch before I had like big exams was The Dirty Dozen.
I
So,
love it. That's
yeah,
one of my favorites.
it's great. I mean, you can't beat it. So,
No.
but I used to watch it all the time. So another question we have asked. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Is there any military figure you gravitate to more or most?
Ooh. Very early in my youth, I read a biography of MacArthur.
Yeah.
And he's someone that was controversial in some ways. His leadership style was unique, but he inspired his soldiers and had a very complicated theater to manage in World War II, and then he also had a big part
was MacArthur in France?
MacArthur was in the Pacific.
In the Pacific, okay.
So
Patton,
yeah, MacArthur was in. What's that?
Patton was in Europe.
Patton was in Europe and in North Africa.
Yeah.
But really, it was Omar Bradley was the kind of the general controlling most of the theater and on the ground, and then of course Dwight Eisenhower was the overall commander of the Allied forces there.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I was aware of your interest in military history because I'm on the board of the University of Kentucky Press, which has a really robust and frankly remarkable catalog of works on military history. So they just released a book on soccer diplomacy, which I have read some of, and it's
Mm.
really, really good. So could you talk?
I love the University Press, by the way, and
Yeah.
they send me all of their military history titles, and I really enjoy that.
I knew nothing about military history, nor that it was a specialty of theirs. I had just read their books on Kentucky and was impressed with
Ah,
those. There's a great book about John Rosenberg, who survived the Holocaust and came to Kentucky to create the Appalachian Rural Defense Fund that still represents indigent people and their rights in Eastern Kentucky. And that was my first engagement with them. So the breadth of what they do is really, really impressive. So can you talk to me a little bit about your workspace? So I know that you were a professor of finance before you came to the provost's office via the dean's office of business school. So I suspect you probably had a workspace at home.
at home,
Yeah.
you're talking about? Yeah, yeah. I've always had a workspace at home. You know, as a faculty member, even if you're not an
Yeah.
administrator, as a faculty member, your work never ends because you love the work. It's part of who you are, and you find yourself, at least I, as a faculty member, working on my research or preparing for my courses. I'd be working on weekends, evenings, early mornings. It's nice
Mhm.
to have that convenience of having a good workspace at home to do that.
It's been interesting to in having conversations about faculty who there are some who only work in their offices. Those are mostly
Hmm.
single people with no children, but they people with no kids
I understand.
or people with kids. It's like a two category, or people with kids. They were like, I can do nothing at home, or people who
Right.
have the freedom to stay late. So that has been really to talk to people about how they have missed even the atmosphere they create in their offices has been really interesting. So,
Well,
so
I think it is important to, uh, in some contexts, for faculty members or administrators to compartmentalize. And at least when I'm at home, I try to confine my work to my study,
mhm,
my office at home, as
yeah,
opposed to working in the bedroom or working in the
yeah,
dining room, that sort of thing. So and especially under the pandemic,
yeah,
I think you could easily let your your entire home become sort of a workplace versus, for me, having my workspace here, and then other parts of the home are my sanctuary in a way. And I think that's been a challenge for a lot of folks
mhm.
during the pandemic.
I've had to figure out, I won't show you, I won't pan this room to show you a picture of my desk, but I've had to split it in half with my 10-year-old. So,
I've heard a lot of those stories.
yes. So on tap, we're waiting now for a shipment of a new desk that we can
Aha.
put into another room.
Well, I've heard from one of my dean colleagues,
Yeah.
whose son moved home after graduation, and got a nice job, but has to work remotely. So this dean had to give up his office so his son would have a place to work.
It's been interesting. It's been interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about any so I've been trying to think as we all have some concern about the potential illness of ourselves or people we care about. Do you remember any home remedies that were used
Uh,
in your family?
yeah, yes, I have a very distinct memory of a home remedy, and I can't remember what we called it, but essentially it was a cough syrup. It consisted of a mixture of some rock candy in the bottom of a canning jar,
Mm-hmm.
with some honey, some lemon, and a heavy dose of bourbon.
Yeah.
And that was our so-called cough medicine. It was kind of interesting because I was raised in pretty strict Southern Baptist family that didn't believe in
Mhm.
consuming alcohol.
Yeah.
And I remember visiting my grandmother, and she was in a wheelchair at the time, uh, and she needed a faucet repaired while I was there visiting her. So she pointed out the pantry, and she said, "Dave, I think there's some faucet parts up in the top of the pantry." And I get on a chair up there, and I'm looking around. I find this jar, and it's full of this bourbon. and she was a bit embarrassed that I
Yeah.
discovered that.
I think
But it's for medicinal purposes only.
we may have been raised in the same family because anything my mother has you cook up, she gives you the directions when she's sick, and you slice up lemon and honey
Yep.
and tea
Yep.
and any dark liquor that's in the house. She was like, if it won't heal you, at least you know you'll sleep okay.
There
So,
you go.
are there any home remedies you have come up with during this period of quarantine to help ease some of the stress or concerns that you have had? I mean, you have a really big job, along with the president and the other administrators, of coming up with how we will move forward as an institution. And I can only imagine the stress that that might lead to. So, have you come up with any home remedies or emphasize any of the habits you had before to deal with stress in this particular moment?
It, yeah, I had an interesting experience, because I've battled a weight problem since I moved to the University of Kentucky, became a dean, and have been put on the dean's 30, so to speak. And in the early part of the pandemic, I actually lost my appetite to some degree. I just wasn't
Mm-hmm.
eating it as normal. I don't know if it was a reaction to stress, but I ate less and I lost weight, and I felt that I needed to exercise more in order to manage through the day and through the week. And so I got into a better habit of exercise, and that's been very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
The other benefit of working from home largely during the pandemic is I enjoy, I'm not very good at it, but I enjoy picking up the guitar and strumming a song and singing. And so when I do have a time in between meetings, I might walk downstairs, put on a cup of coffee. While I'm waiting for the coffee to brew, I'll play a couple of songs.
Mm-hmm.
And it clears the mind for a few minutes during the day and refreshes me. And so those are kind of the two things that stand out that I've been doing since the pandemic started.
I saw that guitar behind you, but we hadn't previously agreed on a song, so I'll leave that for our next interview. But
Yeah, well, I need time to prepare for that one.
the what are can you so the last question I have is what are some of the things you might there are all these habits that we have had to pick up in order to respond appropriately to the pandemic, like we're, as you said, exercising at home. For me, it's been a lot of cooking, and the ways in which my family operates, and perhaps your family as well. And I was wondering, what are some of the habits, either personally or professionally, that you might keep as we move back into, even after we move into a sort of slow return to normal?
I One, I think when you're in close quarters with someone for an extended period of time, I mean that there is a potential,
Mm-hmm.
for a relationship to get frayed.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, was just reading an article recently in the Wall Street Journal about marriages that are really suffering during the pandemic. Um, I I've found that my wife and I have grown closer,
Mm-hmm.
and and she's also a faculty member. She's had to work remotely, and just that habit of being together and talking and supporting each other, I think is gonna follow me. the other thing I've noticed is that when I am out, even at a restaurant or a store, or encounter people on campus, doesn't everybody seem nicer to you right now? I mean, that's what I
Yeah,
feel like.
I do.
People are more understanding, they're more patient, and certainly with all the pressures of and the deadlines around planning for spring and then summer and now fall, there have been a lot of opportunities for any of us to lose our temper, to lose patience, and I've found that just hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that is a habit that sticks with all of us once all of this plays out.
So you have been a faculty member for a long time as well, and I had to go into the office to pick up some books in preparation for the semester. And I saw a few of my colleagues, and dare I say it, there was real joy in seeing them. And I don't know that by the end of the semester, there's always joy. I like the people I work with, but it was a real sense of, I am so happy to see you and see that you are well and okay. And I've appreciated that sentiment a lot. Even people who, under normal circumstances in a faculty meeting, I would totally disagree with, or not care to see them speak, perhaps. But when I saw a few people in the building, I was just like, okay, I'm glad you are well, and things will get better. So is there anything, I just want to give you the opportunity as the provost, this goes out on the Gaines Center YouTube channel, and we, send it out to our community. Is there anything you would like to have the opportunity to say to us as we anticipate this will be live just before we begin the semester? Do you have any words that you'd like to share with us?
Well, first, Melinda, I want to share how happy we are with your leadership of the Gaines Center.
Oh, thank you.
And that's very sincere. I engage with some of the board members on a pretty regular basis. They're thrilled. And so I appreciate that you took on this role. It's now been, I know it's been over a year.
Yeah, about a year and a half now.
Yeah. And so I am appreciative of that. And I know Chelsea is keeping the home fires burning for you. So a shout out for Chelsea as well. I was fortunate to work with her over at Gatton College when I was dean, and I know she's doing great things. And then to the students, y'all are so lucky to have this opportunity, and this is a very special opportunity, and especially for those of you who aren't, you're not majoring in the humanities.
Yeah.
To appreciate how the humanities can provide you with a set of perspectives and skills that will serve you your entire life in many, many different contexts. You will be surprised. And when I think about courses I had in college,
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I was an economics major, but some of my fondest memories are from my foreign language courses, my literature courses, my political science courses, and I still call on those skills and perspectives today. So take full advantage of it.
Thanks so much, Provost Blackwell. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Linda, thanks for inviting me. It's been fun.